Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Betty. Vishal.
Yes, ma'am.
Vishal, please introduce yourself first.
Ma'am, my name is Vishal Dubey. I belong to Farrukhabad in Uttar Pradesh. Currently, my father is posted in Agra, Uttar Pradesh, so my family is there. I completed my schooling, classes 6 to 12th, from Rashtriya Military School, Bangalore. Then, thereafter, I did my graduation from St. John's College, Agra, University, Agra. And currently, I'm preparing for the civil services examination. In my family, I have one younger sibling, that is a sister, and my parents. And I play sports, love music, and write poetry.
Love music. Your music is not written, but you're, oh yeah, playing flute. Okay. Agra, in Agra, which is your most favorite place where you, I'm not saying monument, just a favorite place, a personal favorite of yours?
Ma'am, I like two places. One is my college ground, the football ground, because I've spent a lot of evenings there playing basketball, playing football, and then doing a lot of sports there. And then a second favorite place is on the banks of Yamuna, on the same bank as Taj Mahal is. After around 500 meters, there's a small, almost broken part of a chhatri. They call it a chhatri. It's a structure with a rooftop kind of a thing. So it's a good picturesque photography spot, which less people know of. So I spend a lot of time there as well. So those are my two favorite places.
Good. You went to Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar University in Agra. Huh? That was the university. So tell me, in your view, what do you think was Dr. Ambedkar's biggest contribution? I mean, don't tell me about the constitution in terms of, because you've studied political science also, in terms of a concept or an idea for which, you personally feel that that was his greatest contribution.
Ma'am, I would say that being the legal luminary that he was, his biggest contribution is that in a society like India, where we see that collective interest is always upheld as larger than individual interest, even if it comes to the point of oppressing the individual. Dr. Ambedkar, on the other hand, put individual at the forefront of this, which is well reflected in our fundamental rights, where he sees that even if the entire nation would want an individual to not be there, but he would still have the right to life and liberty under Article 21. So I guess that one contribution of putting the individual on equal footing as the community, that is his greatest contribution.
Interesting. We hear a lot about the global south now. Everybody is talking about global south. Suddenly the word has gained currency. Now, what exactly does it mean? And do you think the idea of global south or the spirit of global south can survive a world which is so divided, on various issues, lines, etc.?
Ma'am, first of all, the concept of global south. Earlier, when it was the Cold War era, we used to have third world as the term, which was, the first world was Western world, that is led by America, capitalist world. The second world was the communist world and socialist world, led by USSR. Then was the third world, the newly decolonized nation, developing nations. So now, after Cold War, when the context ended, we gave a new term to these lesser, let's say, developing countries, where economically they were less developed than the West. So there's a line called the Brent line. So a Brent line is thought to be somewhere near Western Europe, Mediterranean. The line passes through the entire globe, where the countries which are north of that are thought of as more economically developed, and the countries newly decolonized nations like India, African nations, Latin America are said to be global south. Obviously there are some exceptions like Australia, which lies in the south in that line term, but is a country of global north. So this is the thing. And regarding your second question about division, yes, ma'am, there are issue-based divisions among the countries of global south. We would say that it is generally domestic issue-based division. Maybe Argentina, we can take one example, which has recently showed its ultra-right leanings, which might not be compatible with, let's say, a country of global south which has a left-led government. But at the same time, there are certain issues on which all the global south countries would agree. That is the climate change. We would all have to fight this fight together of climate change, because global south is the first affected and the worst affected. And again, the global trade, the inequality of global trade, those are the two issues that come to my mind.
Who makes the classification of LDC developing countries? You know how the classification is made? What is the exact criteria used?
Although I'm not aware of the exact criteria, but I think it's the IMF and World Bank which decide, majorly the World Bank.
You'll have to read about it. What's happening in Myanmar?
Ma'am, in Myanmar, recently, not quite recently, but a few years back, the military took over a democratically elected government. So therefore, there are repercussions from there are guerrilla warfare, there is guerrilla warfare from the pro-democratic parties, and then the military is leading, and there are not yet signs of a election that is going to be held. So those are the domestic problems of Myanmar right now.
Okay, you've heard about the Three Brotherhood Alliance?
I have heard the name, which is a name for pro-democratic parties, but I am not much aware about this thing beyond that.
Okay, thank you so much, Vishal.
Thank you, ma'am.
Vishal, you come from this region, Farkhad, Manipuri region.
Yes, sir.
You know, so what is over a few years back or 30 years, there was Ducat menace in this region. Ducat menace. So what were the reasons and why it is not present today?
Sir, although I cannot specifically recall the name of the dacoits or the dacoit-related incidents, but I think there's a sort of criminalization of politics from that region, as it is said, because so there's a nexus there. So this might be the reason for.
They might be protecting.
Yes, sir.
And how it went away?
Sir, I'm not actually aware of it.
अच्छा ठीक है तुमसे पहले की चीज़ है. So, what are the Rashtriya military schools?
Sir, they were set up by.
What was the aim?
They were set up by King George VI, the first Rashtriya military school in Jalandhar, erstwhile Punjab, which is now in Pakistan. In India, we have 5 Rashtriya military schools. They are feeder institutions to the National Defence Academy, Indian Military Academy, Indian Naval Academy, and Air Force Academy for officers in the armed forces. So these are the feeder institutions where cadets are inducted in class 6th and class 9th, and after class 12th, they give the examinations and go to the respective academies.
What is Rimkolian?
Sir, RIMC is one of our sister institutions in that matter. It is located in Dehradun, and the people and the cadets of RIMC are called Rimkolians.
Any great general who came from, who was Rimkolian?
Sir, I am not actually aware of the name.
चलिए ठीक है कई थे मेरे को भी नहीं पता इतना. Anyway, so you say you have participated in many quiz and you have been the winner.
Yes, sir.
So who are the famous quiz masters?
Sir, one famous quizmaster who is currently very active in the South India circuit, that is Pig Brain. He is called Giri Bala Subramaniam. We have a stage name for him, Pig Brain. Then we have Derek O'Brien. Then we have Siddharth Basu, who sets up the questions for KBC. So those are the 3 that I can actively recall right now.
Siddharth Basu came way back, 30 years back, 40 years back. So what was his main contribution towards quizzing?
Sir, one of his main contributions towards quizzing was making quizzing popular as let's say, a sort of stage game, that is bringing it to households and all.
Then you say you write and read poetries.
Yes, sir.
So it is Hindi or English?
Mainly Hindi and Urdu. I also read English poetry.
Any poetry that you have written, you can recite here.
As I read a lot as well, so I have written a poetry about reading. So it goes like this. पढ़ो लिखो, लिखो पढ़ो, कि खुद से कुछ परे बढ़ो. पढ़ो कि कोई गीत तुमको हार में उमंग दे, किसी का कुछ लिखा जो तेरा जिंदगी में संग दे, किसी के इश्क का सबब किसी के प्रेम की कथा, वही जो अपनी आज है सालों की यही व्यथा। ये मोतियों के हार इसी ढेर में मिले तुम्हें, ये जिंदगी का सार किसी शेर में मिले तुम्हें।
Chala, good, very good. I am telling this because you might be asked. So poetry is a good thing. You can spend some time of the interview. It will be of help to you. Plus, this is creativity. So creativity is always admired. Okay, na? And what are the police reforms?
Sir, police reforms were recommended after the Prakash Singh case in Haryana. So these are reforms of personnel, these are reforms of modernization, as well as policing that is done currently to make policing more scientific and forensic based. There are various points of reforms that were recommended.
Okay, thank you. Good, very good.
You just were mentioning about the fundamental rights. What do you know about the basic structure of the Constitution?
Sir, basic structure doctrine came forward in the Keshavananda Bharati case 1973. It is said to be a form of implied restriction upon the amending capabilities of the parliament. So this is the basic structure.
What are the essential ingredients of the basic structure?
Sir, basic structure as such has not been defined yet, but over the years, various judgments and through various Supreme Court decisions, things have been added to basic structure. Like in the S.R. Bommai case, federalism was added to the basic structure. Then we have secularism, a part of the basic structure. We have democracy, free and fair conduct of elections. All these things are part of the basic structures.
What do you think? There is always I should say, if not a fight, but there's always difference of opinion between the executive and the judiciary over the powers of judicial review. Whereas the executive thinks policy decisions cannot be judicially reviewed, but in some or the other, the judiciary, they take it, no, it can be reviewed. And just in the case of demonetization, it was not a judicial concept, it was an executive decision, but it was reviewed. And Rafael case, and on grounds of whether there is a misuse of power, funds and all that. So what do you think should be the balance between the two?
Sir, as our constitution is based on checks and balances, so there needs to be a judicial review. That is the first.
No, do you think that an act which has been, or an amendment passed by the parliament under Article 368, amending certain provisions of the constitution, can it be judicially reviewed by the Supreme Court? 5-member bench or 7-member bench?
Yes, sir. I would say it should be judicially reviewed, but at the same time, we should be aware of the questions that are being asked. If it is a very specifically policy question, then it cannot be reviewed, as was recently done by Supreme Court when they said that even if same-sex marriage can be ethically right, but we cannot make a law from the Supreme Court or force the Parliament to make a law. So they left the policy question to the Parliament, but at the same time, they would.
This was not a judicial review. There is no provision for same-sex marriages in any act.
Yes, sir.
So that's why they wanted to introduce it by a judicial order under Article 142 of the Constitution, which many of the members of the bench didn't agree. That's why it fell through. But what should be the limitations on the powers of the Supreme Court for judicial review? Should it stop at the interpretation of statutes or the Constitution, center-state relations, or it should go whole hog and say, oh, this is bad, we'll strike it down?
Sir, either of the extremes would be bad. So I would say a restraint on the part of the judiciary is best practiced through the judgment of the Supreme Court judges themselves. They should practice judicial restraint in this matter.
Again, I'll take the matter further. Two Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, more than 750 MPs, they unanimously pass an act for NAGC or whatever, NJC. And it has been struck by 5-member bench of the Parliament. And there is Naxals also, because they want to protect their powers. So was it right?
it was not right. Even one of our justices after retirement, Justice S.K. Kaul, recently said that NJSC was a right bill and could have been amended further. So it would have set up a dialogue. So I guess, again, it would be on individual discretion, but at the same time, constitution is supreme. I guess judiciary should also keep in mind the constitutional limits as well as the powers of the parliament, which is the elected body, as you said. So
You have been from a police family. There is our minister also keeps talking about the hit and run cases on the roads, and the number of accidents in India is pretty high, 5 lakh accidents, and in which 1,50,000 young men in the age of up to 30, 35, 40, they die.
yes, sir.
So now the act has been tightened on hit and run, and there is a lot of hue and cry. So what is your view on this? Whether it is the right thing, or whether the government should come to it, or they should stand steady and don't bother?
Sir, there are two sides to the matter. The first side is that as the punishment was raised, so it was a concern for the drivers as well, because they are in a profession where hit and run is more common than any other sort of driving. So at the same
They can
time,
hit, but they should not run. That is the new law. You may hit, it may be an accident, but if you run away, then it's a criminal offence.
sir, the drivers say that if they stay at the spot, they are more often than not mob lynched, which again is a problem. So I guess there has to be a more consensus-based, dialogue-based laws.
So what should we do? I mean, we should have some cameras fitted on the.
No, sir. I guess we should have a dialogue with them, with the leaders of that lobby, and we should come up with a law where the punishment is not 7 or 10 years as it is in the current bill, but it can be brought down, and the fine, as they say, needs to be reduced, which is more than the annual salaries of most of the drivers. So I guess we can reach a middle point, a madhyam marg of sorts.
Diplomatic answer. Latest book you read?
Sir, I am currently reading Everybody Loves a Good Draught by P. Sainath, and before that I read The Ocean of Churn by Sanjeev Sanyal.
What is that about?
The Ocean of Churn. Sir, The Ocean of Churn is a book about a decolonized historical account of Indian Ocean. Because most of the historical accounts of Indian Ocean begin only after the Portuguese came and the Europeans came. So he talks about the history prior to that.
What is your view on the history written during this period, where they eulogize certain sections, certain periods, and they ignore the other side? As they say, the victor writes the history. The vanquished has no say. The rulers who were there, they wrote whatever they wanted. So now there is a lot of clamor for rewriting.
Yes, sir. It is also said that history is just a lie that is agreed upon. So we have to do more research, and constantly after as more evidences come up, there are various scientific techniques through which we can find out about the archaeological evidence in a better way. So once they come up, once various evidences come up, we should be open to change. We should be open to changing even the basic facts that we know, because we do not have empirical evidence but only derivative evidence. So as the evidence changes, history changes.
Do you think that Taj Mahal, as they say, it is a monument of love? Yes. Is it?
Yes. Sir, I come from the Sahir Ludhianvi school of thought on Taj Mahal. He has this nazm, if I revert to Hindi. ये मुनक्कश दरो दीवार ये मेहराब ये ताक एक किसी बादशाह ने दौलत का सहारा लेकर गरीबों की मोहब्बत का उड़ाया है मजाक.
No, was it the real love story, as they say, Mumtaz Mahal?
Sir, maybe it could have been, maybe it was not. I have not read much on that part of the history, on the individuals, the specific individuals. But still, it is a symbol becomes a symbol once we decide to assign a certain meaning to it. So once we have assigned the meaning of love to it, it can be a symbol of love. Once we decide to assign a meaning of hate towards it, so it becomes a symbol of hate. So I guess it's a very subjective thing.
It's a mausoleum.
It's a mausoleum.
So, okay, thank you.
Vishal, what is matriarchy?
Matriarchy is a system of society where property and rights, property rights are transferred from the female side, on the female side of the family.
So that means we're just replacing males with females, and that becomes matriarchy, or is it fundamentally different from patriarchy?
It is wider than the property rights, as it would overflow into other spheres of life as well. It is, I would say, that fundamentally different from patriarchy.
And because you were the best speaker on role of women in a peaceful world, so what exactly like did you envisage there?
I envisage that women need to have a better role as well as a more strong impact on various facets of peace. That is the domestic sphere, that is the international sphere, where we need to have a feminist foreign policy, where national security is not the chief concern, but human security should be the chief concern. As was put forward by Carol Gilligan in her book Ethics of Care, that women during their maternity develop a sort of compassion that is not always there when men are taking decision at the table. So it was about giving women more space on the table.
And what is a subaltern?
Subaltern is a term that is generally used to denote people who have been sidelined in various narratives. Like it can be a racial narrative, it can be caste narrative, it can be economic narrative, it can be gender narrative.
And can subaltern speak?
Can Subaltern Speak was a book by one of our, I'm not able to recall her name right now. So yes, I guess right now with the power of social media, with the kind of discourse and democratization of discourse that is happening, subalterns can speak. But whether we still have those power structures which would listen to them, that I am not sure we have.
Would it still be called speaking if nobody listens?
It wouldn't be speaking actually, but I guess once you keep speaking 2 or 3 times, somebody will have to listen.
And if somebody listens, would it still be subaltern?
Then it would be subaltern until we have a equality-based society. So till we have equality, it's subaltern, although there are...
And talking of social media, do you think can long-form literature, books, can they survive the onslaught of social media?
Definitely, sir. Even this is a debate that happens in the video realm as well, as I am a very active listener of podcasts. So there are podcasts which go for 10-15 minutes, like Urdu Nama and some others that I listen to. But at the same time, I also listen to podcasts which are 6 hours long, like The Seen and the Unseen, right? So I guess for every form of literature, for every form of content, there's a specific audience who would go all out to get that.
And you've also participated in Republic Day Parade. Why are parades important?
Sir, parades are important in military as a way of building discipline, as a way of developing that instinct to instantly follow the command. As we say in parade that if there's a right turn command, then you have to instantly turn. So that sort of hierarchy, that sort of discipline, that sort of working on command develops, though, which is very helpful in military as they have to work in those conditions. And regarding the Republic Day Parade,
is that the right thing to be, let's say, associated with parades? Parades are a show. So discipline and for other things, you do a lot of other activities, not in public sphere, but parades are in public sphere. They are.
Sir, there are 2 kinds of parades. One is that we have during our training, drills we call them, every morning, in the evenings. So those are for the disciplinary purpose. Then there are certain occasions when we have a show parade as well. So I guess it is just a form of show. It is just a symbol of certain thing. Like if an institution is having a parade, it is the show of the discipline and the turning out of that institution.
Who was Eichmann?
Yes, sir.
Who was Eichmann?
Eichmann was one of the bureaucrats under Adolf Hitler, who was responsible for murdering a lot of Jewish people and was later held to trial in Israel.
Was it right to hold him to trial? He was just following orders.
Yes, sir. I also believe in that Eichmann in Jerusalem concept that was put forward by Hannah Arendt, that he was just following orders. But at the same time, he should have had a moral conscience. So I guess he should be held at trial.
So that means bureaucrats should put more of their brains and could be objectors, dissenters of the government policies. Should they do that?
I guess the ultimate touchstone that needs to be followed is the constitution of the country and the morality that was put forward there, constitutional morality. If anything even if the government says goes against constitutional morality, then it would be wrong on the part of the bureaucrat to do it without even putting forward a voice of dissent.
Okay. And you've heard of Munawar Rana?
Yes, sir.
Uh, like, he was involved in a lot of controversies lately.
Yes, sir.
Do you still like him, or maybe his works?
Yes, sir.
And what were the controversies about?
His controversy was about participation, his participation in CAA debate, CAA protests. So that was the controversy about.
Okay. The last question: is there any reservation in Rajya Sabha?
No, sir.
Should there be any?
I
Why
don't
not?
think-
Why
no,
not?
sir.
If there is a reservation in Lok Sabha, why not in Rajya Sabha?
Lok Sabha is thought to be a people's house, where it should represent the proportion of various classes within the people. It should be representative. It should be represented in the Lok Sabha, whereas Rajya Sabha is more of a guiding light kind of body. It is just a sort of check. So we need more meritorious people there rather than simply people whose diversity should not become the merit in itself to be a part of Rajya Sabha. Therefore, I think Rajya Sabha does not need reservations as of now. That's it.
Vishal,
Yes, ma'am.
you mentioned about feminist foreign policy.
Yes, ma'am.
So, it is typically said that war impacts women disproportionately. Yet, women have no place in the table at which decisions regarding war and peace take place. How can we solve this problem?
First of all, it would be to provide more space to women. I would say at the representation level, as was done by reservations in the parliament. So let's say if we have a war, so women would have more voice in the parliament. So that would be one way of providing women more voice. The second would be changing the discourse around war itself. Why do we need to have wars when we are in an age where we can sit at the table and diplomatically solve things? When economics has taken over geopolitics in some senses, so do we still need wars to sort out things? So I guess if we take that narrative, women will have a better role, and that is the thing that comes to my mind.
Now Houthis are stopping all the cargo, so we can't go and tell them, no, please come and discuss with us. They are doing it, and we have to stop them. There will be war.
Yes, sir.
Now we are sending women to NDA also. So let them fight it out and see.
Sir, although Houthis are doing all the things that they are doing in the Red Sea, but let's say we talk to their backers in Iran. So that would stop Houthis, and which ultimately would...
They don't want to stop. What can we do? We can't go and if you bow down to a person who is terrorizing you, then he will crush you.
Yes, sir. Of course, once we have to put a strong foot down once there's violence against us. But at the same time, I would say they are all rational actors. They all have certain incentives to behave in the ways that they are doing. So if we tweak the incentives, talk to them, we can have a solution there.
So, Vishal, how did you do?
Almost fine. I could have worked on some things.
Why? Why do you say almost?
Last time I was pointed out about the voice, which I
That you. Because I'm the only one here who has heard you earlier. You definitely worked on it. Much better. That's much better. Your hand is moving a lot. You have to control that a bit. But don't do it, don't overthink about it.
I tried to do it in one of the mocks, and it was there in my subconscious constantly, which would affect my answers. So I think I would just try to control it. I would not take it beyond my chest. But if they are going, I would say that I will have to take that.
Yeah, you have to take that.
As a part of me.
But otherwise, your voice was much louder last time I met you. So you've worked on that. And you know your pluses, your answers are good. You are, but I would suggest that since this is a very formal setting, today we also got carried away because of you and we asked you so many questions. Normally we don't have such a long conversation. So you will have to, your replies have to be very formal. Okay, you have to remember that. So just answer only that much which you've been asked, in the sense that, you have to, you're a smart boy, you'll be able to judge what you're being asked, and make it formal. Okay. Anybody wants to add anything?
ठीक है
आप
विशाल एग्जैक्टली जो पर्टिकुलरली एक जो वो है ना कि एक बाउंड्री मेंटेन रखना, ठीक है, जैसे जनरली, क्योंकि सिंस मुझे ऐसा लगता है बिकॉज यू वेल रेड एंड यू नो थिंग्स एंड यू रियली न्यू अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, बहुत सारे बच्चों को बहुत सारे सवाल पूछ ही रहे हैं, तो इतने सारे नहीं पता होता, तो तुम्हें पता है, तो इसीलिए ना अब उससे एक वो टेंडेंसी तो बिल्ड होती है, सिंस आपके वो भी है ना ऐसे कि जैसे यू नो अ लॉट अबाउट हिंदी सॉन्ग्स, जैसे गज़ल और साहिर लुधियानवी, है ना, सब कुछ, तो गायत्री स्पिवाक भी आ गए बीच में, तो इसीलिए जो मेरा तो ये आइडिया है कि अगर थोड़ा सा, अगर जैसे यूजुअली ना व्हाट आवर यूजुअल रिकमेंडेशन है, इसके हम बच्चों को बोलते हैं कि आवाज़ ऊंची करो, हम बच्चों को बोलते हैं और थोड़ा लेट्स से 5 शब्द एक्स्ट्रा ऐड करो, आई वुड वांट यू कि वॉल्यूम थोड़ा, हाँ थोड़ा सा कम, जैसे ना, जैसे अभी हीट अगर ज़्यादा है तो थोड़ा सा स्लाइटली कम, तो बहुत ही परफेक्ट कैंडिडेट टू गेट सिलेक्टेड विद दिस आर काइंड ऑफ कैंडिडेट्स जो सरकार ढूंढ रही है, तो वो वाला। और बाकी जैसे जो पहला आंसर था वो मैम वाला, जो डॉक्टर अम्बेडकर वाला, लाइक वन ऑफ द बेस्ट आंसर्स यू कैन इमेजिन, है ना, उसके बाद ना वो टेम्पो रेज हो जाता है, फिर सभी एवरीबडी स्टार्ट्स एक्सपेक्टिंग, और जिस सर पे जो तुमने वो सर को जो आंसर किया वो पढ़ के ताजमहल वाला, दैट वाज रियली गुड। तो लेकिन अब इसीलिए मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि जो बार बार स्टेप आउट नहीं करना, ठीक है, स्टेप आउट का मतलब सिर्फ मेरा वही है कि हर बॉल पे वी डू नॉट हैव टू ट्राई एंड मे बी गो फॉर अ 6, है ना, तो इसीलिए जो एक टेम्पो मेंटेन करके और एक बाउंड्री थोड़ी सी मेंटेन करके, जो विच इज़ रिक्वायर्ड, अदरवाइज बहुत ही कॉर्डियल ही होने वाला है वहाँ पर भी, हाँ, तो इसमें बस थोड़ा सा ना बहना मत, ठीक है, हाँ, जो मुझे लगता है कि पॉल साइंस में नंबर भी अच्छे आए होंगे और इंटरव्यू में नंबर अच्छे आने चाहिए, तो लिस्ट में नाम दिखना चाहिए।
Yes, I'll try my best.
we want to see you there, huh?
Yes, ma'am. I'll try
कब
my
है
best.
इंटरव्यू?
Dates have not been announced yet.
Oh, so you have time.
I'll
You
prepare
have
geography,
time.
history, जिससे questions में come
हाँ,
to
we
exam.
didn't ask that, but no, you have the confidence to say that you don't know. You don't get flustered. I think that's what. I mean, you are really a very good candidate. So have confidence in yourself. Just work on the 1 or 2 things that you need
डैफ
to
भी
work
बहुत
on.
ही प्रॉपर्ली इनका ऐसे फील्ड है, डैफ में भी अच्छा
DAF
कंटेंट
is,
है।
yeah. There's so much to ask from you, DAF, actually. There's so many things. You're an all-rounder. Your background is very interesting.
किधर मूव कर जाएगा इंटरव्यू, वी डोंट नो।
Yes.
वो शेखर जी जो कहना चाह रहे हैं ना, उसका एक शेर है, लम्हों ने खता की थी और सदियों ने सजा पाई, ये याद रखना। एक क्षण के लिए आप मिस्टेक करोगे और फिर मुश्किल हो जाएगी, वो जैसे कह रहे हैं क्रॉस मत करो, डोंट व्हाट यू वांट टू से, डोंट टेक लिबर्टी अनलेस इट इज स्पेसिफिकली आस्क्ड टू यू।
You have any questions?
I'm not speaking fast.
नहीं.
आई थिंक एप्रोप्रिएट है मैम।
हाँ, उसमें don't work too much on that. अब आप वॉल्यूम तो you worked on it. I think I met you a couple of days back. So since then आपका वॉल्यूम this is much better. Because इन सब टेक्निकल चीज़ों में concentrate. If you do too much, then you might lose out on content. Your content is also very good.
And other question I had regarding that only, that I sometimes a share would pop out regarding the question. So should I say it? I am planning that I will say it just once.
हर बॉल पे स्टेप आउट मत
हाँ.
I'll say it just once, even if it comes.
अगर ऐसे एक दो ऐसे, क्योंकि सर ने तो क्वेश्चन ऐसा पूछ लिया आपने और यू न्यू एक ऐसे मौके पर, तब तो बहुत ही अच्छी चीज़ है, लेकिन अगर बार बार तो ओवरडू नहीं करेंगे।
उसका आंसर भी वही था, अदरवाइज इट वुड हैव बीन ए बहुत गंदा आंसर हो जाता, तो उसका आंसर ही यही था कि एक शहंशाह ने गरीबों का मजा, अदरवाइज तो उसका जो रियल जो है वो तो बहुत ही खराब है अगर आप उस पर जाओगे।
Good. All the best.
फीडबैक फॉर्म ले लो।